Hi, Billy from Herefish here. Want to talk to you about Herefish ROI or return on investment and some client usage data that we've compiled that'll show you kind of ranges of possibilities depending on the time and effort that you put into automating for your staffing business. So, want to start out here. We have some key usage indicators that we look at from an automation perspective. So one aspect of those are the different types of automations that you're leveraging and utilizing. That's the left-hand column here. So each of these are the entities that you can build automations around. And the idea being the more entities, the more things in your business that you can build automations around, the more value you're going to receive from the tool, and just the more it's going to help your overall business. And then we also look at the type of automation steps that are getting utilized. And again, the same kind of philosophy applies. If you're able to utilize more automation steps inside of your instance, you're going to be able to graft a lot more value from Herefish. So, and those are different types of automations as well. So you have a standard automation and then a date-based automation. But then looking at all the different automation steps that you can leverage and utilize: surveys, SMS, internal facing notification or tasks, field updates. And so these are kind of 10 key usage indicators that we look at, and they're going to play an important role as we look at different client user profiles, and the results that they have achieved using Herefish. So we're going to start with a minimal user. So this is a client that only has about 5 to 10 automations live. Typically, they are utilizing 1 to 3 of those key usage indicators. And estimation, as far as when you can get there throughout the process, is about 15 hours of invested time. Of course, this can vary from client to client, depending upon your team, your process, your own familiarity with automation tools, and your ability to kind of configure things. That's a rough estimate of what we would expect, how long we'd expect it take a client to get to this level. And note that once your onboarding process is complete, you should be at or around these levels here. So this is kind of the definition of this user persona. And then we utilize these criteria and these metrics to dive into our system and see how much value a client was receiving that was in this band. So this is based off of weekly output, or 7 days, in other words. And we have this broken out. One of the best ways to calculate ROI of Herefish is to understand what you're automating and how much time that is either saving. So you're automating something that your recruiters, sales consultants, or other members of your business would have to do manually. So there's a time save aspect. That's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is automating things that you couldn't do without an automated system. So that is kind of a time generation aspect to the ROI. And we can combine both of those together, your total time saved and your total time generated, and look at kind of total time combined, which is the metric that we're utilizing here. So as you can see, the minimal user with those 5 to 10 automations live is seeing 5 hours of automated activity per each ATS user that they have. So that's an important concept. So we wanted to do kind of averages and per user so that you can get a breakdown regardless of the size of your organization and get an understanding of what that would do. And of course, that translates into about a 12.5% productivity boost for each one of your users if you're basing it off of a 40-hour work week. So that is the minimal user. The moderate user, we're defining that as a client that has 10 to 25 automations live and running. They're utilizing 3 to 5 of those KUIs, or key usage indicators. And we're estimating this would take about 25 hours of time. Again, the same kind of rules apply. It's a rough estimation, but in our experience and the data that we look at, is it takes much more time to get your initial automations built, configured, and tested. And then as you build more automations, more use cases, your efficiency in doing so greatly increases, which it makes sense from us, and since that kind of a lot of it is front-loaded work to understand exactly what's happening, testing it, and once you've done that, you're able to proceed much more quickly with further automations and use cases. So looking at about 25 hours of total client time, kind of getting this up and running and ready to go. So let's see what the results are for the moderate user. So again, weekly output, or 7 days worth of benefits. We're seeing on average 15 hours of automated activity per user, or a 37.5 productivity boost. So that's obviously quite nice. And you're getting quite an investment on your own time spent. And of course, the larger your internal user database, the more overall value you're receiving kind of through this mechanism. Shifting to the advanced user, this is defined as someone that has 25 to 50 automations live. They're utilizing 5 to 7 KUIs, and estimating about 45 hours to get to this point. Again, that's what our data is roughly showing. It can vary depending upon particulars involved with each client instance. But the results for here continue to climb. You might be starting to see a pattern emerge. So here we're getting 83 hours of automated activity per ATS user, or a 307% user productivity boost. So, I mean, this one is pretty powerful. You have a 40-hour work week from one of your internal staff that's getting transformed into 123 hours of productivity. So really powerful. Obviously, that's great for your business as a whole. And the last, but certainly not least persona is the power user. So this is a client that is really grasping at all available avenues to automate. So they have 50 plus automations live and working. They're utilizing either all or near all of those KUIs, and we estimate about 80 hours of investment to get to this point from the client side. And the results here are pretty breathtaking. So this is on average, our power user clients achieve 703 hours of automated activity per ATS user. That is not a typo. That is real live data. It's pretty incredible, I will admit, but also extremely powerful. It kind of shows the exponential ROI that is possible if you make the investment on your end from a time and process standpoint. And then, of course, 18 and a half times multiplier for each user productivity boost. That's incredible. I mean, you're unlocking things that literally were not possible or are not possible without automation. So it gets very exciting, especially when you get to these levels. Now, I want to point out a couple key takeaways here that I think are informative. Is that the received value that you get from Herefish is not linear to the effort that you put in. So it scales exponentially the more time, focus, attention, that you can dedicate to it. And the reason for that is because once you have an automation up and running, tested, verified that it's working properly, it will run in the background forevermore until you decide to turn it off. But it can become a foundation block, and then you can utilize your own time to build the next layer. So you gain a long benefit from each automation you're setting up, and then you can utilize your individual time to set up more workflows, and it just snowballs exponentially as that momentum builds. And the other key takeaway here is through a combination of automation blueprints, which are available inside Herefish and also on the website, and tutorial videos that we have available. We have over 60 different automations that are either configured or you can walk yourself through exactly kind of how to build those out. So if you utilize just what we have available out of the box and follow that blueprint and that schematic, you would automatically elevate yourself as a company to either near power user levels or power user levels or beyond. And that's just with the out of the box resources, which of course we are adding to constantly, either sometimes on a daily basis, if not daily, weekly basis, as far as new tutorials, new blueprints, and we are here to help you get the most out of the system. So a couple ways that you can do so. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel that has a bunch of great playlists and content there that will walk you through key automations, how to get best practices, tips, and alerts. And then you can also go through specific playlists of different automations that pique your interest. And if you have any questions, of course, reach out to us. We are here to help guide you along your journey. Thanks.